Welcome to Dixon Mashabe Live. In this episode of the Business Mirror, I bring to you one gentleman whom I've seen grow his law firm from just a small law firm to one of the best in Uganda. They've won awards, they've won accolades in Africa. But the most thing I want us to talk about today is partnerships. If you're new to this channel, please subscribe, hit the bell button, and just wait for much more that is going to come your way. Now, my story, I lost 3 companies because of partnerships. So if you are about to start a company, or you think of starting one, or you're in one, there is a lot for you to learn today. Just stay tuned and let's go through partnerships. With me to discuss business partnerships is none other than the leadership and strategy partner, Signum Advocates, Mr. Alex Matovu. Alex, you're welcome to the show.
Thank you, Dixon.
How are you?
Thank you very much. I am well. I'm glad to have the opportunity to share on the Business Mirror.
Okay.
An idea that, of course, you've shared with me, and, seeing it start off and, reminds me of the days when we started the business that we are running. So I'm glad to be here.
Just a brief about yourself and the firm and generally, so that we get to know who Alex is and what you're doing at the firm, and basically so that we get to understand exactly what you do.
Okay, thanks, Dixon. My name is Alex Matovu, as has already been mentioned. I am a lawyer by profession, but I'm also very passionate about human capital development.
Okay.
I know that human resource or people are the organizations or companies' greatest resource. And so I'm very keen on personal development, management, and leadership growth. And that's why I'm the leadership and strategy partner here at Signum.
Okay.
But I've also worked elsewhere before. I didn't, it wasn't that when I left school, I immediately started a business.
Okay.
I have a background of having worked with another law firm. I've actually worked with an accounting firm. I've worked with a law firm before I came to start Signum. So I have an understanding of what it means to be employed. I have an understanding of what it means to be employed and to have no idea about how to run a business. And basically seeing what has happened now, I think that it's a story that, is worth sharing. And for me to pick a few things here and there, especially when it regards or comes to doing business with other people.
Yes.
Yeah, so that's my background, really.
That's your background.
Yeah.
Okay. I'd like us to delve right into partnerships.
Yeah.
You've mentioned that you've worked in companies before which had partners.
Yeah.
You came and formed Signum Advocates with your partners.
Yes.
Many businesses have failed.
Yes.
Myself, I'm an example. 3 have failed because we didn't agree with my partners.
Yeah.
We had different expectations. It just didn't work out.
Yeah.
How and why partnerships?
Why partnerships?
Yes.
Okay, so for me, let me start with my story
Okay.
before I even get to tell you why I think partnerships are necessary. So basically, I left school at about 22, 23 years.
Yes.
And then I decided that it would be necessary for me to, go and practice law. But of course, I'd started working with a law firm in my first year. That's 2006.
Okay.
That's when I first worked in a law firm. Of course, not doing legal work as such, but just getting that training and apprenticeship that I managed to get while at the law firm where I worked. Now, interestingly, I think that while at that law firm, I was never taught about how to run a law firm. Yes, I observed things from a distance, but I did not get to be, intentionally mentored or deliberately mentored to understand how to run a partnership. And yet it was a partnership.
Okay.
So for law firms, in most cases, they'll start as sole proprietorships or they'll start as partners. 2 partners, 3 partners, and even more. Across the world, there are firms that have over, almost 1,000 lawyers across the world. And these are groups that have opened across the world.
Okay.
So I remember in 2011, when I finished my bar course, I worked, I think, for about 2 years. And I was dealing with or working with gentlemen who are in different law firms, but they were my friends. We had a group of 5 gentlemen, and we still have the group. So essentially, we would invite, people to come and speak with us that we thought were successful at it. And in 2 years' time, one of us, thought, I think this is something that we can start.
Okay.
So he comes to me or to us as a group and says, look, I want to start this law firm. But of course, we still have, that fear. We are young. Back then I was 20, I think I was 26, he was 27. And that was the age group of the group that we had. So it wasn't really to us something that would be a possibility. Okay. So I remember asking him and said, look, yes, you're thinking of starting a law firm, but are you sure we'll succeed? And he told me, you know what you're asking me, what you're saying is what many people that have asked are asking. I'm looking for one person who will ask me, what if we succeed? Because I've had everyone ask, what if we fail? Now, for me, that hit me hard. I remember 2013, yes, I had the idea, but I don't think I was very resolute in saying, let it start 2014. But with that statement and that question, it left such a deep conviction on the inside of me to say, wait a minute, there's a lot that I've seen that is different. Maybe when we talk about why we should even start a business and the vision in the first place. For me, there were so many things that I noticed that were wrong. Unethical practice and professionalism in the way we handled clients and all these things. And I kept asking myself, when will this change? But deep inside me, I knew that I have to be the change that I want to see. I just didn't think it would happen at that point. So I remember going to my mother in 2013 and telling her, you know what, I'm going to start a business. So she says two things. She told me, one, I think you're so young, you're really, really young, you can't start at this age. Two, if you're to start, you've got to start it alone.
That was 26 years.
26 years. 26. Okay. Actually, I was 25 then.
Okay.
So she says, if you're to start, then you've got to start it alone. So I went on to ask, like, why would you say that? She told me, you know what, I know about, you know that you lost your dad. I lost my dad when I was 4 years in 1992. Sorry. And he died in a motor accident. So it was a very devastating experience. And my mother told me that, look, I am not sure that your dad died a natural death. It must have been something to do with business relationships or business partnerships, disagreements in business. So she says, you know what, life is more important. Go it slowly. If you must start, do it alone. Now that brings me to the reason why it would be necessary to start a partnership. Now, for me, I liked those reasons that she gave. And of course, she's the most influential person in my life. I had to respect her advice. So yes, I respected it, but I respectfully disagreed with her. Why? Because for me, success without a successor is failure. Any success that we talk about in one generation and we don't get to see it moving to the next generation, for me, is not true success. And for me, that really meant that it cannot be entirely about me. So even if I had started alone, it had to have people who have worked as employees or staff in the organization who later become my partners, because I want to see legacy. In fact, this firm was first named Legacy Advocates. We only failed to get the name. But the idea behind the minds of every partner that was there then was to say, look, let's start something that can exist beyond us. Up to today, we still do that. So it's one, the fact that it can exist without you. And for me, that's very important, especially for Uganda, because if I asked you to list 3 to 5 businesses really, that have been around for the last 30 years, and they're indigenous Ugandans, I'm sure you'd find it hard to list them. Why? Because I think the mentality has been that if I start my thing, it is my thing. Kantu kange. So if I have to make some money, it is my money. And that's where many of those challenges for me would come from when we get to talk about that. But the most important thing is that, one, it's something that should exist beyond you. But two, it is opportunity to put together resources. So I remember we started the farm and our budget was about 50 million back then. And trust me, none of us had 50 million. We were 3 partners at that time, and some of us went to our parents to borrow the money. Not to just get it for free, but to borrow the money. Yes. But even if we did, none of our parents, I think, would give us 50 million at once. So we had to gather. Alex, get from wherever you get from, your savings or wherever, someone else borrows, and you put the money together to start the farm. So for us, it was an opportunity to pool resources, and as a result, this is where we are.
I like where we're going, and you know, I'm a student of partnerships. I've suffered with partnerships. So I'm enjoying the conversation so much. Challenges, of course, like everyone's fears, there are challenges. What are those challenges that are likely to come up in a partnership, and how maybe could we avoid them? Okay.
Now, of course, it would be a lie for anyone to tell you that this is a smooth ride. I remember a time I mentioned, a lawyer asked me to meet with them to talk about partnerships. They had struggled or they're struggling, and they said, can we have a conversation? So we spoke, I think, for about an hour. And then as we're closing, I told her that, look, what we do in our partnership is that all resources, all income is farm income.
Yes.
What that means is that we have a farm account versus our individual accounts. There's no money that goes to hit my individual account as a partner before it goes to the farm account. It's the farm that pays me. Now that's not African.
Yes,
because it's my business. It's like someone coming to your family and telling you that, you know, you're earning all this money, but it has to go through another account to come to yours. It doesn't make any sense. In fact, this lady told me, you know what, I hear everything you're saying, but I don't want you to tell me the ideal. That's what we all want. Don't tell
Yes.
me the ideal. Tell me the real thing. What do you do? For me, that was very funny. In fact, when I came and told my partners, everyone laughed.
Yes.
Because we're used to it. Does that mean that we are naturally inclined to doing it that way? Of course not. Yeah? So I think that it takes a very high level of selflessness to handle the challenges. And everything that I'll talk about is really about that. That we are surrendering our rights for the good of all of us, and we shall ultimately have more rights. So if the rights here are financial, where are the concerns that people will have? The concerns are that I don't have autonomy, both in terms of finance, but also in exercising powers and making decisions. So what you find many people doing in their partnerships is they'll say, I'm partners with Dixon, but we only share the costs. So we
Yes.
share the costs, pay the rent, and everyone takes what they take home. We
Yes,
don't do
yes.
it that way here.
Yes, I was coming to that. Coming
All
to
the
that, yes.
money is farm money.
I-
Now, the challenge with that is that irrespective of who has made the money,
Okay.
and we can get into how then we do the sharing model and all that
Okay,
discussion. We can
okay.
have that. But I think the biggest challenge that people will have is a challenge towards their autonomy in terms of
Yes.
their ability to make decisions.
Yes.
But someone said, if you want to go fast, go alone. If you want to go far, go with others.
With others,
So I
yes.
think it's a choice for us to make, to say, I want to go very fast, autonomous, or I want to go very far with other people. As a result, you end up impacting the lives of others in the process. Last year, just to give an example, so last year I had an accident. I had an accident in a very, very, disturbing kind of situation that I went through. But I was down for about 3 months. And trust me, I could not come to work because both my legs were broken.
Yes.
So I was in a wheelchair. I couldn't even use the steps. It was very difficult. I had to be lifted. But my partners, and for me that's the reason for the partnership, is that during those times you realize that, wait a minute, you're actually mortal.
Yes.
2, you have no full control, like we like to think, over every affair of your life. You can
Yes.
fall sick, many things can happen.
Yes.
So imagine a situation where every time you fall sick as a business owner, you close shop and go home, and then your clients can't access you. For me, this whole partnership idea is actually a sign of selflessness, even in relation to the staff, in relation to the clients, that they should not suffer to have their salaries paid, or clients should not suffer to be served because that individual is not in office. So when you come to deal with us here at the farm, you engage the farm. So yes, Dixon knows Alex, but it has nothing to do with Alex at the point of engagement.
Yes,
You're engaging Signum advocates as a farm. And there'll even be a clause that says, yes, the engagement partner might be Alex Matovu, but the following people will be at your disposal. And if you have any concern that cannot be resolved between you and Alex, this is the email to send it to. So we're running an institution.
Yes.
It has
yes,
nothing
yes.
to do with the individual.
Alex,
It has everything to do with the institution that is serving you. Do you know that the person who founded Stanbic Bank?
No.
How about Barclays?
No.
But Barclays is actually an individual. It's someone's name.
Yes.
But they thought beyond themselves. So yes, the name could have been or could be Barclays,
Yes.
but the vision that they have is bigger. So for me, that's where I would be coming from. Now, if there are other challenges, then it's up to you to tell me what you think, because you've said you've gone through them,
Yes.
and then we can see.
Now
how to
let's let's look at this.
Yes.
2 partners come
Yes.
on board. One is working, has a day-to-day job.
Okay.
The other one is at the farm. So maybe this person brings in cash,
Yes.
whereas this other partner
Yes.
brings in his sweat equity.
Yes.
Sweat.
Yes.
There's usually a conflict of, because guys who bring in cash
Yes.
tend to think that they are more powerful, or they do much more than
Yes.
the person who does what?
Yes.
The donkey, or the call it donkey work in quotes.
Yeah.
How do you advise on that?
Okay, I think for starters, I've seen that many entrepreneurs interpret partnership or business support or financing to mean business partner. I think for starters, those two should be separated.
Okay.
If giving money or investing money in the business always meant being a business partner, then banks will be a partner in every business
Okay.
because they have the money.
That's good.
So it's not true that each time someone has money and another does not, and I'm trying to pitch my idea or have my startup, every time I come soliciting for funds, whoever gives me the funds becomes a business partner. That's something that we should be clear about. Number 2, the nature of entities differ. There's a company, there's a partnership, there's a joint venture company, there's many other entities that we can talk about legally that can help to have what you call a partnership constituted. What do I mean by that? If the amount of money I need is 50 million today, and you're not going to be in the company henceforth, all you're putting in is the 50 million,
Yes.
and there'll be nothing more,
of you.
then we can talk about you investing as debt. So
Okay.
basically, you're lending money to me. In that case, we wouldn't even call it an investment. We'll just say there's a debt. But also, there's what we call preferential shareholding. That yes, you can lend money to me for a given period of time with certain expected returns in terms of interest. So I pay you out within a given period of time of my entity running or business running, and you're out. So you're a shareholder only for a given period of time for your money to be paid and the interest. So you're more or less a lender who is temporarily a shareholder, right? Then the other option is to invest as equity. Now, where you invest as equity, then you're going to be a shareholder. Now, even that is very important for people to understand. That when we start, we're excited. So we say we'll own a 50-50.
Yes.
But I think it's important to paint a picture of how this business is going to run beyond startups phase. Because the business is not going to remain in startup phase forever.
Yes.
So if one is going to operate and another is going to put in the money, the person who agrees to say it's going to be a 50-50, yet both of them are not putting in the sweat, must understand what that means. That if the company is worth 1 billion tomorrow, and it started at 50 million, and I put in my 25, and you put me as a 50% shareholder, then chances are high I'll claim a stake, even at 1 billion, because I am an equal shareholder in the company. So for me, the structuring is something very critical. And I think for many of these problems that arise, one of those, one of them being what you've just mentioned, I think it has a lot to do with structuring. It has a lot to do with getting advice. So when we tell people, you need to hire a lawyer and all these things, they feel like expenses that shouldn't be incurred.
Exactly.
We've agreed on how to do this thing. Why do we need a lawyer? But it's extremely important. In our case, I'll just give you one example of how to solve that. We decided that no one would be a partner at Signum Advocates part-time. So I remember someone in our first year who brought computers and said, guys, I have computers. I want to be a partner. And for me, that was amazing. Now, we're quite, how can I say, we're quite not as informed as we are now, that one of my partners almost agreed. He actually called me and said, Alex, someone is giving us all the computers we need. And now the question is, how much are these computers? Is this something that can really make you a partner? Which then takes me also maybe to the question of how we then select, which I think we'll talk about. How do you choose a partner? That one we can discuss, but it's more than the money. So for us, it was important that you have full skin in the game, so that then we don't begin to compare who is doing more than the other. And what then that helps us is that the reason we're able to put money on the same account is not that we make the same amount of money as individuals, but we have the firm as the bigger picture for all of us. So this year it will be Dixon who makes more money. Next year it will be Alex who makes more money. So imagine in the year where Dixon made more money, we said Alex should not earn or get a dividend. Then what happens in the next year? So the nature of service also dictates how things work. I think for us, being a professional services firm, it's really a question of practice area. They don't peak at the same time. Today litigation and the people who go to court will make more money than the people who do advisory. Tomorrow it will be a different case. Now we are aware that the brand of the firm is a holistic business or commercial firm that must have both advisory and dispute resolution. So for me, that's the background. Yes.
And maybe all startups know that lawyers are expensive.
Yes.
Wait.
Yeah.
Is that true? Put that, I'm adding something.
Yes.
Lawyers are expensive. They could be, expensive is relative. But look at a startup. Just someone who is just starting with his meager resources. When you mention a lawyer, the first thing to do is to flee. Because they know these are expenses, and because there's not, don't see any tangible benefit there and then. Maybe it would come to bite them later. But right now, no, I can do without a lawyer because it's an expense which I could avoid. What do you have to say to a startup right now who is avoiding legal advice, who is avoiding to come to you because he thinks the lawyer is expensive?
I think that there are quite a number of things to talk about. Number one is to understand that every business has startup costs. If you're able to know that I need money for rent, why should it be difficult to understand that you need legal advisory? In my view, you need more of the legal advice as you start up than rent. You can work from home, but you can't do without proper advice. So that's the starting point. Two, we know that more and more firms are being started which are able to think through how to support startups. So the rates that how I'll charge Dixon, an established businessman, is not the same as how I'll charge a startup. I'm working with a number of startups now with an organization called, two organizations. One is called HIL, Hague Institute for Innovation in Law. The other is a program going on right now called the NSSF MOBS High Innovator Challenge. Essentially, they're getting businesses, getting them into competitions and how to really pick out the best ideas and then support them. And part of that process is that NSSF would then fund whoever is supporting. So if it's a legal firm that is supporting, whatever it is the support they need, it's funded by another funder altogether.
Okay.
So there are many programs that are coming up, and that's why you have the innovation hubs and like Innovation Village and all these spaces. Ideally, they are meant to bring together these startups that are serious about what they're doing, that understand the value. I think there's a difference there. We confuse value with price.
Okay.
And that's why much of the time for me, the debate is not on price. The debate should be on value. If someone understands the value, then we can agree on a payment plan. Then we can agree on where they are and what they can afford to pay. But for me, it's critical to understand that this advice is necessary. It's critical to understand that it's as important as any other expense, or even more important than any other expense.
Not very many years from today.
Yeah.
I sent a request to a lawyer. I think I called him. Can we have a meeting and discuss this? Please share with me your email. He said, okay, fine, Dixon, we shall meet, but my hourly rate.
Yes.
What do you have to say about the hourly rate for lawyers?
I think the issue with what people need to understand is that lawyers are one of those professions, or law is one of those professions that are highly regulated. So we actually have a law called the Advocates Remuneration and Taxation of Costs Rules.
Okay.
Those law, that particular law or regulations, basically guide on how a lawyer should bill.
Okay.
Now, billing by the hour is just one of the ways. It's not the only way. Okay. Now, in law, we say ignorance of the law is not a defense. In essence, ignorance of anything cannot be an excuse for you to fail to do what you're supposed to do.
Yes.
Now, I think that more and more, and I'm one of those that believe that it's important that all human beings are equipped with the basics of the law.
Yes.
So these laws are on the internet.
Yes.
So it would be important, even if you didn't check the law itself, just Google and say, how do lawyers bill or cost their services?
Okay.
One of them is hourly billings. Another is to bill a percentage of what is being dealt with that is provided for in the law.
Okay.
Another is to bill per assignment. So if, for example, I said I want to incorporate a company, you wouldn't tell me per hour.
Yes.
We just simply agree that this is the incorporation fee and it is capped. So there are different ways of doing it. Now, if I had your situation, that I wanted to meet a lawyer, I have a startup, do you know what I would do? I'll type my questions, send them, and say, how many hours would this cost? Why would I need a meeting? I think we are coming from a background where we are used to, I want to come and meet you, counsel, for the next 3 hours. But his time is paid for. So why do you meet me? And by the way, with COVID now, we even have learned the more that we don't need these meetings.
Yes, physical.
So for me, there's no way I would understand if you said, I don't know how long this would take. You have your questions. Just send the questions and say, how long will this take? But also, this is not the only lawyer there is. Compare.
Yes.
Much of the time when I state my bill and a client comes and says, you know what, I think I can't do this.
Okay.
I think I can try out elsewhere. I encourage them to try out elsewhere. Yeah, because I'm not the only lawyer there is. And that's not pride, it's just knowing your value.
Knowing your value.
Yeah.
Let's now go to what you've achieved.
Yes.
What you've achieved in these how many years?
Now coming to 7 years.
Coming to 7 years.
Yeah.
Yes. So you've passed the 5-year mark. I
Yes.
should congratulate you because
Certainly.
you know some companies, because I'm sure the day you started,
Yes,
many other law firms started.
by all means.
But some,
Yes.
or maybe you could find half
Yeah.
are already down.
Yes.
Yeah, it's very possible. So Kongs on passing the 5-year mark. I see the 10-year mark very around
Thank
the
you.
around the
It's
corner.
coming.
Yeah,
Yeah.
sure. So now, what are some of the achievements that you feel? Because we want to share achievements so that we encourage someone out there that it's possible.
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, I think I'll start with the least expected.
Okay.
So I'll start from down up, if there's
Okay.
any such a thing as ranking. Although for us, all our achievements are important to us and we glorify God for them. The first thing for me that is critical is that we've managed to pay all our staff without any complaining, and we have paid them on time. Now, that's not to mean our salaries are the best.
No.
But the reason why that is important to us is that for all of us as we're starting, the one thing that cut across was to say, look, there's this thing called no payment or very little payment, very low payment
Yes.
of salaries for staff in the legal profession. It's still something that is a big challenge. That it will not be one of those professions that you think are lucrative. If it is, then it's mostly for business owners, not employees.
Not employees.
So it was a norm. It's something that was known that, you know what, you don't get to be paid, you'll work with the law firm and they'll tell you, do your own cases, bring your own work. It's quite exploitative. And for us, that was something very critical. We would rather have fewer staff, but be able to pay them well.
Pay them well.
The firm has gone from 3 people to more than 15 lawyers now.
Okay.
And that cannot be attributed to anything but the vision the perspective of why we exist in terms of what the partners had in mind or the vision bearers. So for me, that's the first thing. But along the way, we've seen a number of things happen. We've onboarded clients that many have struggled for years to onboard.
Okay.
The kind of approach that we've taken to the legal profession is the progressive kind of approach to the law. Okay. So one of our values is we have relationship as one of our values, innovation and trust. Okay. But through innovation, we are talking about the possibility of providing a solution without giving the client excuses.
Okay. Okay.
And we've noticed that what were the issues? The issues were responsiveness of lawyers, the quality of work that they do, the speed with which they do this work. And for us, that's where the innovation has been. What other way can we take or approach can we take to make sure the solution is provided and it's provided on time? Our relationships with the people. So we normally say we're not transactional, we are relational. What that means is that we are not the kind that get excited about one brief or one payment that we make from a client. So that means our prices are customized to the situation that the client has at hand and the nature of the client that we are dealing with. And for us, that has really meant a lot in terms of mileage that we have managed to cover. So we don't run a loss-making business. We run a profit-making business.
Okay.
And we've seen our lives change, even as individuals. At an award level, we've been recognized by the university at UCU, Uganda Christian University, as a law firm of integrity and excellence. So they say we've excelled with integrity, and they like the fact that we are doing this the right way.
I love the word integrity.
Integrity. I think that's
because in the profession, the good fraternity, the integrity.
Yeah.
Yeah, you know, it has there are dents all over the place. Yes,
precisely. And for us, that was one of the reasons. So we asked ourselves, wait a minute, lawyers are meant to be trusted.
Yes.
How come the people that are meant to be trusted are almost now the ones that everyone tries to shun away from? To say, man, that's a lawyer, a liar.
Yes.
So we said, no, we're going to be lawyers and we're going to be telling the truth and we're going to be doing things the right way. Such that when we look back, it will not be about how much we've accumulated. It will be about how we did it. So for us, the ends do not justify the means. If we've not done it the right way, then... Now at a continental level, just if I may fast forward, is in 2018, we applied for the first time. It was the first Ugandan law firm to do what we did. We applied to join or to be nominated into the African Legal Awards.
Okay, okay.
And those awards are really out of research across the continent on what firms have done, the impact they've had. And we came second as a highly commended law firm in 2018 in Africa. And that's the category of small practice. Small practice is 10 partners and below. Now you can imagine that almost all law firms in Uganda
really
would be small.
Practice, yes,
but we came out as the only Ugandan law firm. We are glad to see that right now many firms in Uganda are picking up and realizing the need. The only law firms that had participated from Uganda were really firms that are started from abroad, firms that are from South Africa and different parts of the continent that have branches here or presence here. Ours was the only indigenous firm. We applied for the first time and we were recognized. Now what we've done over the years is that apart from the firm, we've also now tried to highlight the talents that we have within the firm. And so for the next year, one of our staff members was recognized as the new Kama of the year, promising lawyer of the year in Africa. We get ourselves out of believing that we're meant to be average, out of believing that as long as we do what is enough, for us that's not enough. Mediocrity cannot be enough. It's the grave, like I normally say, it's the grave where excellence is buried. So we want to challenge ourselves to say, can we work at a continental level? And maybe the last thing I'll mention, right now we have presence in over 6 countries in Africa. And how we've done that is that we affiliate with firms across Africa that accept to be identified as our offices in that particular country. So we have Rwanda, we have Kenya, we have Malawi, we have Zambia. So we have those different countries where we've managed to get those kind of relationships. So we don't talk partnership only in Uganda. We actually across
So do you want to say, if I went to Rwanda, for example,
yes,
and I say I want to go to Signum Advocates Rwanda,
yes,
will I find you there?
Not necessarily. They are not called Signum Advocates.
Okay.
But if you called and said, Alex, we would need your kind of service in Rwanda, or we need to know your sister firm in Rwanda. So what we've done is to approach it from a network perspective.
Okay.
So create your own network, and as a result, you could actually become Signum Advocates Africa. And that's our vision. We've had law firms that have approached us. The only reason why this has not worked as fast as we thought it would work is that the standard that we set is really high. And so it's important that we get firms that are at the level that we want to be at in terms of vision, in terms of values, in terms of skill set. So we think that by working with them in a loose kind of arrangement, allows us to learn one another, them to learn us, we learn to get to learn about them, but also to understand the size and the amount of businesses in these different jurisdictions. It's one thing to say this is the country where I want to go, it's another to know that there's sufficient business.
Okay, now, thank you so much. I'd like to talk about partner disagreements.
Yes.
Do you write documents and say, Dixon and Alex are starting, if we ever disagree, I take Dixon's hand, if we ever disagree, I take, what happens if you ever disagree? And maybe would if you have some examples of how you disagreed before and sorted it, so that, because I know even right now there is a law firm disagreeing, or there's another business partner disagreeing with her, and they want to kill themselves. Yeah.
Someone said law firms are like, business partnerships are like marriages. So if anyone ever said, for us we don't disagree. Someone said if you agree with someone, you're with someone, and you agree all the time, one of you is useless. Why? Because we grow out of conflict. So every time we clash, it means there are different perspectives. Okay. And for us, we don't believe that by having a different perspective, one is right and the other is wrong. There are different perspectives that can be reconciled, harmonized, one can give way to the other, but even the one that takes the day picks from the other. What I want to be very categorical about is that we have disagreements almost on a daily. What we have learned is how to manage them. And managing them, for me, the first thing in managing them is to know, are these fundamental? So for example, if we decided that we're going to buy a clock, we've disagreed on whether to buy a clock or not to buy it, and if we buy it, where to place it.
Yes.
One time I was discussing with a friend of mine who happens to be a client of the firm, and I mentioned to him, he said, man, having a business partner is the best thing that can ever happen to you, because he has run a solo practice for about 20 years, very big in the industry where he is. So I mentioned to him that, by the way, are you aware that there are actually struggles that we deal with as well?
Yes.
And he says, are you sure? What kind of struggles? I think you guys have such chemistry. Because on the face of it, there's no disagreement.
Yes.
So I told him, let me just give you a basic example. Do you know you can actually disagree on what you agreed? So we're sitting in a meeting here, and we said, Dixon, this is what we are going to do. Yes. At implementation or sending out that communication of what has been agreed, someone sent you and said, by the way, wait a minute, we actually agreed on something different. Yes. Now, what we do as lawyers, for starters, is we have documents. And, partnership deeds. If it's a company, you have the memorandum and articles of association, whatever it is that you come up with as a document. If it's a joint venture, it will be a joint venture agreement. There are documents that will help to give the basics. Okay. But we all know that when you're getting married, because I equated it to marriage, or compared it to marriage, that when you're getting married, where do you sign on the details of the marriage?
What do you say? You sign on your name?
Okay. Does it provide for who will buy the food, who will go to work, who will take care of the children? That certificate that you sign, it doesn't. It doesn't. So the thing is this, that a true partnership is what exists beyond the documents.
But people change.
And guess what has happened? So people change, and I agree that people change, but we've seen one of our partners depart and leave the firm and joining another firm. And we keep seeing it every single day. But I think what we have decided for us is to not lose focus of the big picture.
Yes.
Let's not lose focus of the big picture. That what will not matter 5 years from now should not break us. Okay. So by the time we say we really can't work together, it must be such a divergence in terms of direction that we want to take, or what we stand for versus what another stands for. Whatever it is that is a disagreement, it has to be something solid. But for me, it's important that we are together. Our total, the summation of who we are, is better than the individual units in the group.
So the disagreement is not about the clock, really, as in the clock won't kill the company, whether it's there or not.
It won't.
The company will go. Okay. Yeah. All right. Now, any advice to young entrepreneurs or startups?
Yes. On
partnerships. On partnerships. Any advice to someone who is starting today?
Personally, I've come up with, I normally say I'll patent it. Of course, it's a joke. But I've come up with a formula that I give entrepreneurs. And I say, guys, if you follow these 3 things, or if you mind these 3 things, chances are high whatever happens thereafter will be manageable. Okay. The first thing, I call it the VVS formula. So the first thing is values. The second is vision. The third is skill set. Okay. What do I mean by that? So by values is what a person is, what a person stands for, what they can't break. Now that means they won't be challenged. That doesn't mean they won't be challenged in those areas, but it's what they really stand for. And trust me, that's the most difficult part. People think the most difficult part is to paint a picture of the preferred future, which is what vision is. So, you spend a lot of time painting the picture. You say, this is the kind of farm we want, this is what we want to achieve. You spend a lot of the time on the business planning. But the actual thing behind the thing is the relationship that you share as the partners. And that relationship is hinged on what you stand for. So if I'm the kind that likes to tell the truth, if I'm the kind that likes to do things without paying a bribe, if I'm the kind that believes that when we promise something, we must deliver, trust me, the reason we spend sleepless nights sometimes on clients' work is not necessarily because they're paying more, or that if we lose them, the business wouldn't stand. It's because we gave them our word.
Your word. Yes.
Now, if for another person that does not matter, it will not matter which kind of picture of the future you have painted. It will be very critical what they stand for and whether what is important to you is important to me. If the two conflict, then you can't stand. So for us, you stand on something as an individual, and we ascertain. And of course, you can't have 100% confirmation of what I stand for, I don't, because our hearts are hidden from us. But for me, that's the reason then why we do not get into partnerships suddenly. It's like dating, that you don't meet someone today, you say, I think they're beautiful, you get to marry them the next day. You date them, you try to understand who they are, you try to understand what they stand for, you try to understand what really matters to them. I'll give an example of a friend of mine who is looking for a business partner. So she comes to me and says, look, I met this lady, and I think someone has connected us. I feel this thing that I think we can work together. But she says, there's this thing that is making me, forcing me to hold back. We're having a conversation, and she asked me about how much I pay my staff.
Yes.
And then, she mentioned what she pays. And then she says, wait a minute, is that how much you pay? I think that's too much. You can't be paying people that kind of money.
Yes, yes.
Now, this lady who mentioned that this is how much she pays comes from the background of saying, look, I want to make people's lives better.
Better, yes.
What she stands for is generosity. She believes that when she gives, it will be given back to her, big measure, pressed down, shaken together.
Yes.
She believes that in investing in other people's lives, she will benefit as well. It's more blessed to give than for to receive.
Yes.
This lady says, no. For me, I am frugal. I don't want to waste money.
Yes.
This lady is saying, wait a minute, paying people for what they've done and paying them well,
not wasting money.
Appreciating them. How can you call that wasting money?
Yes. So already you see.
What do they stand for?
Yes,
Now, that,
yes.
by the way, let me make this very clear. That does not mean that one was better than the other. It simply means that they have a difference that if not dealt with at the point of deciding whether they can work together or not, they're going to conflict. So we know of business people who are known for being frugal, and they have succeeded.
Yes.
And they inspire very many people. But that's who they are. Is that who you are? Values. Vision. Vision, being a picture of the preferred future, is something as important. It's critical. Without vision, the people perish. And why do they perish? Because if we do not know where we are headed, how do we get there?
How do we get there?
Also, if we do not know where we are headed, how do we know when we get there? So I've met, I'll give an example of Sydenham here. So we decided that this farm is going to be a #1 farm. Okay. Not necessarily being better than everyone else. But when you come into it, you should be able to feel like this is home.
Yes, yes.
So the way the whole farm, and you will go around and see, is really homely. The idea is a homely idea. Why? Because we exist to nurture growth. That's our purpose or vision. To nurture growth and offer peace of mind. We nurture growth, offer peace of mind. We want to see our people grow. We want to see our clients and the people we serve, both as staff and clients, having peace of mind. Now, what that really means is that we want to be measured by how people grow because of the support that we've given them. If people are getting out of business and we are billing them so much and we are happy, for us, we're not fulfilling our vision. Our vision is so much about seeing other people grow.
Okay.
Our vision is so much about seeing people who came as associates. There's some who even come as clerks. They're still at law school. We want to see them growing to become partners in this farm. And that's why for us, you can't hide anything. Ours is to say, this is what we stand for, this is the vision, this is how you grow through the ranks to become a partner. All that is explained. So while someone works with us, they know that this is where I start, this is how far I go. We nurture growth also in the sense that if you leave the farm, we should be able to support you to succeed wherever you go. Lastly, the issue of skill set.
Yes.
Because it's a professional service, and maybe let me put it in the broad sense, you find people whose strengths are, I'm operations, or I'm sales, or I'm marketing. And their business partner, or their two other business partners or more, have the same skill set. So they just worked somewhere and they became disgruntled. So they all came out and said, let's start a business.
Yes.
As a result, none of them is helping the other.
Yes.
The Bible says the reason we should have partnerships, I think it's Ecclesiastes chapter 4, the reason we should have partnerships is that when one falls, the other is able to lift them up.
Lift them up, yes.
What that means is that you're not expected to be falling at the same time.
Yes.
That means you don't have similar weaknesses or similar strengths.
Yes.
One might have a weakness, which is another strength. And as a result, you complement one another. And when it comes to skill set, it's also important to distinguish between the technical and the soft skills.
Yes.
That's why for us, none of us is more important than the other. We complement one another. And that's why it's important to think through that. If I'm starting a business, I'm considering Dixon as a business partner. Where is his strength? Where is my weakness? How do we meet one another in the middle? And then make it shine.
Thank you so much. This is a mouthful.
Yes. So my advice to entrepreneurs really would be that we put it in our schedules, that we don't have to wait for something bad to happen, to stop and think. Stop and think. Yes.
All right.
Yeah.
Wow, that's been a wonderful show. Thank you. Thank you for opening up. Thank you for being straight enough. Thank you for being truthful.
Yeah.
And thank you for leading the way, especially of integrity.
Yes.
I want to commend you for that. Thank you for staying this long on the Business Mirror. If you're new, please subscribe to Dixon Mshabe Live. There are many more episodes coming. There's much more we have in stock for you. Just keep it to this channel, and trust me, we shall transform this nation and the world together. Thank you, and God bless you. Bye-bye.